So now I let Lawrence to talk about how IoT adoption is changing the consumer behavior. So please, Lawrence, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Margarita. Love the topic because it's such an important part of where the future is going to lead us. And I also like what was being said in that sponsor break around how do we keep it human? How do we keep what we're doing a relevant part of how we work, how we engage, and the different things that we make decisions on that we are now starting to change things. So when we talk about the Internet of Things and how that's changing consumer behavior, I want to take a slightly different twist on that view, because we might be thinking about, well, what are the effects of that? But we're going to take a slightly different view, and I appreciate you coming on this brief journey with me as we start to move forward and talk about what this really means for us. I'm the VP of Data Analytics at Acxiom, and this is a really exciting and meaningful topic for me. So the Internet of Things is nothing new, but did you know that by 2025, there will be more machines with the potential to act as customers than humans on the planet, right? Now think about that for a minute. We have the ability to code these devices, to process this information and make decisions for these devices to act as customers. And as marketers and as advertisers and data scientists, we need to really consider what that means. We see them in our everyday lives, and the fact is these devices are everywhere, right? And as we quickly approach the holiday season, year after year, you see even more of them. And they're cheaper and they're easier to plug in, they're easier to connect, and that changes things for us. And so I want to share with you as a perspective around what I call the emergence of the programmatic IoT data layer, right? And this is starting to think about what happens when the machines become people, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by this, right? First and foremost, people will continue to expand their use of devices that are connected and increasingly autonomous, right? It's out of convenience. It makes it easier. There's just so many ways that we start to take advantage of the technologies and the way that these devices are connected to the internet and how they make our lives more convenient. The second thing is that marketing to people will require new thinking as IoT becomes proxies to people and creative treatments are becoming more ineffective, right? Think about the smart speaker. Right now you're using your voice to interact with the speaker. And if you ask it a question and it gives you a recommendation, there's no creative treatment to it, right? And the voice is monotone. There's really nothing added to it that gives you any sort of evocative emotion that comes from that. So we as marketers have to think about what's that going to change for the experience for folks, right? And when we talk about that experience, that extends to emotion and empathy, right? Is Siri or Alexa going to, sorry, I'm not going to set off all your speakers. Are those devices going to, make you feel an emotion, right? Are they going to deliver empathy in how they communicate with you, right? Those are no longer considerations when these machines are making the decisions, and those decisions then affect our day-to-day lives, right? And finally, as brands and as enterprises, we have to think about what does a data-driven ecosystem start to look like to orchestrate that flow of information to those machines so that they can help us continue to be more human, right? And not lose that component of how we think about the world at large, right? So I'll take you through a little bit of a quick journey here in terms of how we think about IoT today. And I'll go through this fairly quickly here, right? We see this every day today. We have direct control over devices, right? I just happen to have this car, a fantastic car, if you love Volvos, but I can control it from my phone. I can turn it on, I can adjust the heating, I can have the air filter clean the air before I get into the car. But I am telling that machine to do something, but it is connected to me regardless if it's next in the garage or it's 100 feet or 1,000 feet or 100 miles away. I can control the car directly, right? The next kind of level beyond direct control is what we call indirect control, right? We are programming in advance specific rules and specific conditions, all right? So if you use any of the shortcuts or you use if this then that, you know what that looks like. You can create instructions and it'll piece together different capabilities together for you. But then you're turning over that control for that device to then execute, right? Then you take that a little bit further and you start to think about, well, AI enabled, right? And the best thing to think about is these thermostats. They learn. They know that if you come home at a certain point every day and adjust it to a certain temperature, that maybe the next day it should do that on behalf before you even get home, right? It starts to predict what you're going to do next and make those decisions based on that learning and considering what the best recommendation is going forward. So that's AI enabled. But let's consider how this convergence of all these different devices that we're talking about start to really change things for advertisers and marketers. All of us have a set of these for the most part, or we use them, right? But this particular washing machine from LG is unique. And the reason that it's unique is that there are sensors inside this device that now start to discern the softness of your laundry, how large the load is, what types of, how dirty the clothes are, right? You pair that with other sensors in the water filtration system to know what's exactly the kinds of things that are in your water that come out of your dirty clothes, right? So there's a lot of information that is now coming from these systems. But we'll keep this example pretty simple. Think now about this device, which is now called an Amazon Dash Smart Shelf. You put any product on top of it, and it measures basically your use and consumption of that device. Well, pair that with something like a laundry detergent, right? And I've been saying for years, it's just a matter of time before they put those sensors built into the bottom of that box, so they can automatically speak to the cloud and kick off the replenishment cycle. But what happens if you put all those things together and now Amazon can decide, you know what, based on the water, based on the types of clothes you have, based on the fact that you use a lot of organic cotton, I'm going to recommend this particular brand of laundry for you. And you know what? I'm going to send you a no-cost free sample to your door without you even asking, right? That can be done today, right? But there's no governance over that data. There's no management for it. And so there's a big gap of how we need to think about data and analytics informing a better customer experience for all of us, right? So when we think about talking to machines and not people, right, there's a couple of things to talk through. And I'm not going to go through all of these in detail, but we have to think about what it is to have a people-based future, right? And how do we find ways to connect to people? I talked about the creative interference and how in that cycle I talked about with the washing machine, we don't have any creative elements. We're not seeing a beautiful advertisement. We're not seeing people doing laundry. It's just gone. Data management and ethics and privacy are key issues, right? And we're getting more and more comfortable with handing over control. But yet there is an opportunity for direct brand interactions, right? But at the end of the day, consumers will benefit, brands will benefit, and we have the opportunity to build a managed ecosystem. And that's something I want you to really think about and is a really key takeaway from this conversation. So many of you are asking, well, what now? What do we do now? And so my suggestion to you is, as we think about, as this world evolves and as we have different roles in the place of data and brands and interacting and engaging, think about what should this new mad tech data ecosystem look like to enable devices to build better experiences for everyone. Thank you so much for your time.